Hello, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay? How are we feeling? I've seen some of you are already locked in, saying hello. Hey, Salome, Reina, Adrian. Hey, guys. Hey, guys. Okay, so everyone in the backstage is ready to go. So we're about to kick in. For those who do not know me personally, my name is Marcy. I am the founder of Lisanga Vibes. And at Lisanga, we always start every event with a bit of music. So there is no reason that this one would not start with music as well. So let's go. I can see the people in the backstage vibing with me. So I'll ask everyone at home to vibe with me as well. Hey, Lucy, how are you doing? How's luck? Hello, everyone. So for those who just joined us, my name is Marcy. I am the founder of Lisanga Vibes. Lisanga Vibes is my project, which I launched in January last year in this very flat with a group of lovely women. Some of them have just joined in. So I say hello to you and thank you for also bringing this idea to life. So today, Lisanga Vibes is a brand which grew with several followers on various social media platforms. And we recently launched a podcast. We also have now a newsletter. So if you're not yet signed up, we suggest you go on our website to put your email address so that you get news from us on a monthly basis. Um, for today, we are starting a new project, which is very important for me because the talk show is actually a part that is usually a very specific section of each Lisanga event. Lisanga is a word in Lingala, which means coming together, organizing, meeting, or association, depending on the context. And in the events we organize, we always have a discussing part, which I tend to moderate. So this talk show is a way of bringing to everyone what we do in this flat usually. So for today, the crispy topic we chose is hair. Usually people see me wearing braids, wearing different hairstyles, but for today, I chose to keep my hair natural to be in touch with what we're going to discuss. As you also know, Lisanga, we post most of our content both in French and in English. And in this panel, we have a special guest from Paris who does not speak English, so he has his translator with him. I will ask you to bear with me as we go through this discussion because there may be some delay when you get the translation for the UK audience. Um, I will introduce him quickly and then bring him on screen before we go further. So he's a Paris-based hairologist. So he will explain to us what all of that is about. But he's a very special guest and he will be our expert on questions of hair and ancestrality and ancestral beauty. Without further ado, I'm bringing on stage Mr. Nsibentum, the hairologist. Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm fine. And you?
I'm very fine. So I will bring in as well quickly his translator. Hey, Sona, how are you doing?
I'm fine. I'm fine. How about you?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. I'm doing great. Thank you. Next on the list, we have a very beautiful lady who will be our expert on questions of media representation and fashion. She works as a broadcast producer and she's recently started a publishing house, Manifest editions. So please welcome Charm. Hey, Charm. Hey, how are you doing? We can't hear you. We can't hear you. You're on mute. No worries, it's okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, welcome, Sham. How are you doing?
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm doing great. Thank you.
How are you
Yourself?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Okay, we're going
Great.
to move on to the next panelist. Last but not least, his name is Nate the Lyricist. Many of you already saw his face in some of my events on Instagram because he's very active. He will be our expert on questions of self-love, community bonding, and he also hosts a monthly event to talk about astrology as well as poetry, which is very creative. It's called Conversation with the Constellations. And this is very interesting if you want to learn more about who you are and the energies that have come in your body when you came to Earth. Without further ado, I will add Nate the Lyricist.
Hi everyone. Hey.
Hey, Nate.
Can you hear me alright? Yeah. I'm not on mute or nothing. I'm good. Okay, beautiful.
No,
Hey everyone.
we can hear you fine. We can hear you fine. How are you feeling?
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, I'm good, man. I've got my tea. Do you know what I mean? I've got my chocolate. I'm ready to go.
Ready to go. Okay. So I think I want to start the discussion with Nsibentum actually, because he will really be our expert on this topic of hair. And before we start the conversation, I want you to take some time to explain to us what you do. Donc, explique-nous un petit peu ce que tu fais pour qu'on puisse rentrer tout de suite dans le bain.
Alors, on m'entend bien?
Yes, we can hear you. I can hear you definitely.
Ok, alors bonjour à tous et merci d'être là pour cet événement, pour ce live. Donc je m'appelle Nsibentum, je suis chevetologue, je me suis défini comme étant chevetologue. Donc en fait je m'occupe de tout ce qui est soin de la peau et du cheveu selon technique ancestrale.
So, hello everyone. My name is Nsibentum. I define myself as a hairologist, which I'm going to explain later. And I use ancestral techniques for hair and skin.
Okay. Can you tell us a bit more maybe about when you traveled to Africa, what you've seen there and what you've taken back with you to Europe? Donc, explique-nous un petit peu ce que tu as vu quand tu es en Afrique, que tu as voyagé un petit peu et qu'ensuite tu nous as ramené ici en Europe.
Alors, pour dire ce que je vis, ce que je ramène d'Afrique, je suis obligé de revenir un peu sur l'origine. C'est que moi, depuis très longtemps, j'ai cru que les techniques ancestrales africaines n'existaient tout simplement plus à cause de l'esclavage et de la colonisation. Et en fait, j'ai découvert qu'elles existaient encore en écoutant un live, il y a un peu plus de 10 ans de cela, le live d'une grande dame qu'on appelle Dame Lewat.
So to make you understand a little bit more about what I've brought in from Africa, we maybe need to go back to the origin of my interest in African and ancestral techniques. I simply tout that ancestral techniques have disappeared because, of course, of slavery, colonization, and the history of our countries. And it's only when I listen to a big, great woman named Jidet Lowat, when I listen to one of her lives, that I actually realized that there are some people still guarding those techniques.
Et du coup, donc, je suis retourné en Afrique d'abord depuis Paris, en fait, tout simplement.
So I first went back to Africa from Paris, simply.
Et de là, donc, elle m'a expliqué un peu ses méthodes ancestrales. Et depuis qu'elle a réaligné mes différentes connaissances, chaque fois que je pars en Afrique, via mes missions, eh bien, en fait, je trouve toujours un moment pour aller dans les villages et questionner les mamans et les papas sur comment est-ce qu'ils entretiennent la peau et les cheveux.
So since this woman explained me some of her techniques and some of the ancestral techniques we had in Africa, so every time I would go back to Africa for missions, because I was working in the finance world, I would always find the time to go talk to the people, to the local people, to see how they take care of their hair and their skin.
Voilà.
Okay, so I want to move on to the next point maybe and go to Nate actually. I can see that you're going through a personal hair journey. Why did you decide to change and go that way?
It was to be honest, it was a bit of like an experiment that I really think went well, you know. At first was my beard. It was like I've lived my entire life without a beard, and I'm 33 now. I hit 30 and I was like, I want to grow a beard and just see how that feels, and I fell in love with it. And since then I've started growing my hair, which as you can see is now doing whatever it wants on top of my head. And that was probably like a year later, or maybe a year and a half to 2 years later, I started growing my hair. And my journey so far has been incredible. I'm loving every second of it. You know, I'm learning to take care of it. I'm learning loads about it. Especially looking forward to learning about it today. But you know, I've learned so much. It's really helped to develop my intuition. That was something that I mentioned to you earlier, Marcy. You know, I've really felt that it has helped me as in this journey that I'm on. I really feel that I've noticed the difference with more hair than before I had it.
Yeah, no, definitely I can see the difference. And Charm, I can see you're going through a completely different journey. So we have men on the show who have long hair, and you have men who have short hair. So my hair is not that long, and Charm is even shorter.
Exactly.
So can you tell us why you decided to keep your hair short?
To me, I feel more me when my hair are short, and by the first time that I cut my hair is kind of been a revelation for me and everyone surrounding me, and I try to make them grow back, but that is not me anymore. So I just stick to short hair, don't care.
Okay, so going back now to Nsibentum, I want to discuss a bit more all the practices in pre-colonial Africa. Donc Nsibentum, j'aimerais que tu nous parles un petit peu de tes connaissances sur l'entretien des cheveux dans l'Afrique précoloniale.
Ok, donc déjà l'entretien du cheveu à l'époque antécoloniale, enfin avant le premier contact avec les explorateurs et les colons, c'était d'abord une approche globale, c'est-à-dire que c'est tout le corps dont on prenait soin parce qu'il était tout simplement sacré, tel que le Créateur l'avait fait.
So what we need to understand first is that in pre-colonial Africa, it wasn't only the hair that we used to take care of, but it was more global. It was the body as a whole, because it was a perfect being created by our creator, and that we needed to magnify it.
Et de là, donc, on en prenait soin au niveau donc de la peau et des cheveux. Et le but, c'était unique. On se devait d'en prendre soin parce que c'est le Créateur qui l'a fait parfait.
So the whole purpose of taking care of our bodies and our hair was the idea that the creator, the supreme creator, created these bodies perfect.
Donc la seule chose qu'on pouvait faire, c'était de le sublimer.
So the only thing we could do was to enhance it.
Et ça passait par plusieurs façons. Ça passait par déjà le soin, ensuite les coiffures, et aussi donc au niveau de la peau et des cheveux, parce qu'on ne peut pas distinguer la peau des cheveux, puisque c'est sur la peau que poussent les cheveux.
So it was done to different manners. So the care, usual care we do now, also by the hairstyles, and also the care of the skin, because we cannot differentiate the skin from the hair, because it is where the hair is from.
Okay.
Et donc, à travers le cheveu, on pouvait distinguer, dès le premier contact visuel, on pouvait avoir un maximum d'informations. C'est un peu comme aujourd'hui, lorsqu'on vous présente un peu le CV et la carte d'identité d'une personne.
So before, from a first sight of a person, you could tell a lot about them. It was kind of their resume, as we see now in the workplace. But just by looking at the hair, you could tell what social status there were and other informations about them.
Voilà donc pourquoi les cheveux étaient aussi importants dans l'ancien temps.
And this is why hair was so important before, because it was a global thing rather than some of the ways we see it now.
So then what happened when, because you said we focused on pre-colonial Africa and before the slave trade era, but can you tell us more specifically how that time frame has affected all of our questions on identity? Because you just said that hair was really social status, marital status, so they had like lots of different levels depending on the hairstyle you're wearing. And I want you to tell us a bit more about how the colonial and slave trade broke down that process. Ça va? Tu peux nous expliquer un petit peu les conséquences?
Alors, ce qui se passe, c'est que déjà, il faudrait vraiment que nos amis et frères, blancs comme noirs ou autres, comprennent une chose, c'est que quand l'explorateur est arrivé, il a commencé une chose d'abord, c'est qu'il nous a beaucoup observés.
So the first thing for our brothers and friends, whether they're black, white, or Asian, is to understand that when the colonizer first came to Africa, the very first thing he did was to really observe us and see in what way do we practice what.
Et donc, dès l'instant qu'il a décidé maintenant d'inverser la tendance et donc d'exploiter ce qu'on a appelé le bois d'ébène, c'est-à-dire les corps noirs,
and from the moment he decided to turn every practices we had before and to now utilize what we call now the black body,
alors il a décidé d'enlever tout signe de reconnaissance au niveau des cheveux, voire même parfois au niveau de la peau.
And he then decided to remove every single sign of pertinence of or everything we talked about, marital status, social status, and to remove it, whether it's from the hair or even sometimes from the skins, as we had scarifications before.
Parce qu'il faut savoir que la peau caucasienne ne fonctionne pas de la même manière que la peau africaine.
Because it's important to understand that the black body doesn't necessarily work the same way than the white body.
Dans le sens où les produits utilisés pour une peau blanche ne sont pas les mêmes que ceux utilisés pour entretenir une peau noire.
As the products used to maintain and take care of white skin are not the same than the one used for black skins.
Donc, lorsqu'on nous exploite et qu'on nous dit que nous sommes sales, ils vont utiliser les produits qu'ils estiment être adaptés pour nous rendre plus propres.
So when the message came that black people were dirty, that black people were nasty, in their minds, they had to use the products that they considered fit for us to become cleaner and better.
De la même manière qu'on va nettoyer des animaux avec du savon, on va aussi nettoyer les noirs avec du savon, du shampoing et autres.
In the same way we're going to wash animals with soap, it is in that same way that we're going to wash black people with soap and shampoo and so on.
Donc maintenant, lorsqu'il va y avoir la traversée, lors de la traversée, il n'y avait pas de douche, pas de conditions. Donc quand les nègres, j'emploie le mot nègre parce que c'est le mot de l'époque, arrivaient sur le marché des esclaves, ils arrivaient avec des cheveux collants qui sentaient les excréments, qui n'avaient pas été entretenus pendant tout ce temps. Et donc la première chose qu'on a refaite encore une fois arrivé, c'est de raser et de nettoyer encore.
So when black people were transported from Africa to other regions, of course, in the boats, there were not proper care for their skin or their hair. So when they arrived on the other side, their hair was sticky, they were smelly. So the only thing we could do was to wash them, remove that dirt from them.
Okay, I have a quick question for you. before we go forward. And I would like to show you a video because there's a very interesting aspect of our hair that we don't really mention a lot, is that we are creative, but we are also very creative in terms of survival mode. Because as you said, within that journey, you couldn't maintain your hair, you couldn't treat them, you couldn't care for them as they should. But they also were creative to put seeds in their head. And I have a quick video that will show you one of the techniques that they used just to survive, because they knew we would not have food maybe for so many weeks or so. So let's just save a bit for better days to come. Okay, so I think you've seen just enough before the YouTube ad, so I will spare you that. But basically, the idea of this video is just to explain that we were very creative with our hair, especially when it came to survival mode. So maybe if you can just elaborate a bit more on that specific aspect, and also what the video was just going to explain, how they were braiding their hair to draw maps to escape from plantations.
Alors, je vais peut-être choquer du monde, mais je pense qu'il y a une part de mythologie là-dedans.
I think he'll shock a lot of people by saying this, but he strongly thinks that there is a part of mythology, of myth, in everything that we just saw.
Le premier point, c'est par exemple le fait de mettre des graines dans les cheveux. Si on parle de mettre des graines dans les cheveux avant de prendre le bateau, je pense qu'il y a peu de chances que ça fonctionne parce qu'ils étaient extrêmement fouillés. C'est-à-dire que quand vous voyez les fouilles qu'il y a dans les prisons, c'était du même ordre. C'était même pour éviter les mutineries. Donc, cacher quelque chose, que ce soit dans les cheveux, dans l'anus, ou même pour les femmes, dans le vagin, c'était des zones qui étaient inspectées dès le départ.
Because first, if we talked about people doing these practices before they took the boat, we can clearly see that it was very unlikely, as there were thoroughly searched before taking those boats but whether it was their anus, or for the women the vulva, or it was their hair, every single part of their bodies were searched, as you can see in prisons now.
Donc pour la première partie, je ne sais pas trop. Qu'il y ait du génie créateur, je suis tout à fait d'accord, pas de problème. Mais par contre, qu'on pense que l'esclavagiste a laissé passer des gens avec des choses dans les cheveux pour pouvoir traverser le bateau, je n'y crois pas beaucoup.
I mean, I admit that there was a creative genius among our people, but for the esclavagists to allow people to take those boats with things hidden in their hair or in other parts of their bodies, I think that's very unlikely.
En revanche, dans la plantation, pour pouvoir préparer des évasions ou prendre quelques graines pour pouvoir les planter dans les, comment on appelle ça, dans les quilombos. Donc c'était des camps qui existaient au Brésil. Tu pourras garder quilombo, hein, Sofna. C'était des camps des marrons, c'était des marrons au Brésil par exemple. Donc c'était là où les nègres marrons se réfugiaient. Ça, il y a de fortes chances qu'ils aient utilisé ces méthodes pour prendre des graines, effectivement.
We can't hear you, Sona.
But I'm sorry. So, but if we have to talk about the parts where they were already in the plantations and they used those seeds or even the mapping you talked about, that's even more likely, especially when we have to talk about those quilombo for brown Negroes in Brazil. It's very likely that they use these techniques to survive and to try to escape.
Okay. I think now I want to move to nowadays and how all of this previous history is affecting how we live. And I have a question actually for Sham, and especially in representation, one of the highest fields or industry that we usually look at is fashion. And in fashion, we usually see that good looking Black women have their hair worn very short. What's your view on that? Would you say that this is still accurate there? We can't hear you, Sham.
Sorry, y'all. Well, it's I agree at some part of it, just because that's how the Black woman's hair are seen most of the time. It's very rarely from outsiders or even within our community that the black hair itself could be wear long as a whole. I'm saying, and in the fashion industry, it's also most of the people would say it more to see the beauty features, but it's also because in the fashion industry, not a lot of people are able to work that hair, to
Okay.
work with them, like making nice haircuts. Even if the hair is short, that can be obviously works and have beautiful hairstyles.
And from what you've experienced, have you seen that there's been any shift or any at least effort to try and include people who know how to look after our hair and style it so that we have more representation in those spaces as well?
Well, you can see an improvement within that industry, but most of the, from my humble experience, whether than it was when I was front camera or when I was behind camera, most of the people are Caucasian, that are either trained to work with the black hair, but rarely I've seen black hairstylists in big movie features or music video. Is a bit different because it all depends about who you pick and how you work with people. But in the industry as a whole is getting better, but I think there is still a lot of work to be done, just because that industry extremely wide, and in terms of representation, it's very impactful, I would
And I
say.
know, for example, that Nate, you've released a video called Sensational, and you chose a very specific model for that video. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, of course. So the model that I asked to come and act out in the video is Tolu. Her name is Tolu Lose Clothes on Instagram. She's a hairstylist, a natural hairstylist, and she has beautiful hair. You know, big, massive afro hair, beautiful. And she really does take care of it. She really does look after it. And I think I just wanted to portray that in the video, not just the hair alone, you know, but sort of her as like a black woman, looking tasteful, you know, looking beautiful, you know, looking powerful, walking in her power, and kind of just, you know, like doing her thing. That was sort of the energy that I wanted to give out. And she was the best person for it, because of the way she looks after her hair, because of the way she looks after herself, because of, you know, the kind of person that she is. So yeah, that was played a role in my decision.
Yeah, I think I think you made a great choice actually to choose her in the video because I've seen it and it's great. But I think
Thank
I
you.
also want to put to the floor a question about music videos actually, and usually the type of women that are chosen in those videos. You usually tend to see the same types of straightened weaves or straightened hair in those videos, and without even bringing the colorism question on the table, lighter skin as well. Would you say, or do you think that after the Black Panther movie effect, there's been a change in terms of what we see in the music industry and also in the cinema industry in terms of hair representations? Who wants to start first? Maybe Nate?
Yeah, I've got one. So a lot of the time, the model that's in the video is not actually the artist's choice. You know, the artist can say, this is who I want in my video. But then if they are working for somebody else, you know, if they're signed to a label, a record label, the record label does have the authority to overturn that decision. Or sometimes, obviously, if the record label is pay or someone else is paying for their video, then they ask for like a dark skin model to come through, and on the day there's only like a Caucasian model comes through, and they say, well, this is all we have, that's what we have to deal with, we've paid for the video shoot, we've booked the camera, we've paid everything, you know, so you're gonna do your thing. And there's not really so much that the artist can do if he's not independent. So obviously me, I'm an independent artist, I make my, this is what I want to do, you know, if my model doesn't turn up, I'll cancel the shoot and do it again another day. Do you know what I mean? Because that's the image that I want to give out. But not everyone has the autonomy to make that choice. That as well, on top of that, I did want to say that I do feel like there's a lot of lip service now after the Black Power movement that's happening. You know, there's a lot of lip service that I think we are already seeing and can expect to see going forward, because everybody wants our money, you know. So obviously these labels who were once at one point saying, no, don't worry about it, now they're saying, actually, you know, if we can get Black women on board and Black men on board, you know, then we're gonna triple our income. So I think that's definitely like a, yeah, that would be what I would want to contribute to that question.
And maybe Nsibentum, what's your view on this? What can you tell us about what you've seen as an evolution in terms of Black women in movies as well as in videos for music?
Oui, alors oui, quand même. J'ai vu ces transformations-là. Alors, je ne sais pas jusqu'à quand il faudrait remonter, mais moi, je vais commencer à partir de India Hari, pour ceux qui connaissent.
We can't hear you. Sorry.
I'm so sorry. So he has noticed a substantive change in this area and of Black women representation in video shoots, but he doesn't know how long back he should remember, but he's gonna go all the way back to India Hari.
Pourquoi? Parce qu'elle a commencé avec des clips très inspirés qui parlent à la fois musicalement, mais aussi avec les textes, et aussi d'un point de vue image, et qui parle aussi de notions de spiritualité. Donc India Hari, Erykah Badu, je les mets à peu près au même niveau.
Why does he talk about India Ari? Is because she in her music and her music video has always different ways of speaking. So whether it is the song in itself, or it is the writing, what is she saying? Whether it is the image, what is she portraying? There is always different way of expressing herself. And in that category, we could also put Erykah Badu.
Et donc, à partir de ces femmes que nos frères et nous-mêmes avons vues en mode waouh, avec des coiffures, des attachés de foulard et tout le reste, je pense que le game a changé un peu à partir de ce moment-là. Parce qu'elles, à l'époque, elles étaient un peu underground à cette époque-là.
If we look at the fact that our brothers and his generation have looked at these women and with their scarf, their hairstyles, and we're like, wow, what a beauty. So he really thinks that these women were game changers in this area.
Et de là, le reste a suivi, mais elles sont arrivées déjà avec ce côté naturel, pas forcément beaucoup de maquillage, elles sont arrivées avec leurs équipes. Et avec la démocratisation des moyens techniques, ça a permis de faire des clips pas trop chers, et entre nous et pour nous aussi.
And the specificity of this woman is that they came with their own image, their own team to produce these video shoots. And now that all these techniques have become cheaper, now we can do video shoots for ourselves, by ourselves, and for our people.
Great. Now, maybe Sham, what can you add to this discussion? We were just saying how obviously being behind the camera and choosing who will be modeling has highly affected and highly improved our representations on screens. So would you say that within your specific industry and what you do, this is also a trend that is being confirmed?
I think is yes, indeed, because it's just linked with the inclusion wave that we are currently living in. I heard that Nsibentum was talking about India, Ari, and Nate a bit more our time, but in more overall, I would say that now the choices are a bit more focused on bringing any type of inclusion, but inclusion can be very highly in all the spectrum of colorism, not particularly the extent of the dark skin, if that's the case, if that makes sense.
Okay, I think now that we looked at how in music video we can see more of ourselves because we are taking a more important space, and the roles as well behind camera, in the casting, directing as well. I want to talk about actually hair extensions, because usually in those videos, even if you look at big pop stars such as Nicki Minaj, she's most of the time portrayed with weaves or wigs, and she changes colors as well. Beyonce as well, same thing. For so many years I believe that was her hair, and when I discovered it was not her hair, I stopped being a fan. But anyways, that's a side note from me. That's my side note and my take on Beyonce. But I just want to talk about hair extension, and maybe Nsibentum, can you tell us historically what is our relationship with hair extensions?
Alors là, je risque de prendre un petit peu longtemps la parole, mais j'ai vraiment besoin de poser le cadre.
So I may be talking for a certain amount of time, but I really need everybody to understand the basis of this subject.
Tout d'abord, je tiens à préciser que le but de mon approche, ce n'est pas de stigmatiser ou indexer certaines personnes qui portent la perruque ou des tissages.
So first of all, he would like to clarify that the purpose of his approach is not to stigmatize or index any part of our people or people who wear wigs and weaves.
Je tiens à bien faire la différence entre le naturel, donc le côté nappy et autres, et l'ancestralité. Moi, je me revendique de l'ancestralité.
So he really insists on the difference between natural, what we call today nappy, and ancestrality, because he claims himself to be ancestral and not necessarily natural.
Et dans l'ancestralité, la conception de perruques et même des artifices qu'on ajoutait dans les cheveux, ça existe depuis très longtemps en fait. C'était soit avec des cheveux humains, ou bien avec des fibres végétales, ou encore avec des poils, des queues d'animaux et autres.
So, but if we come to this paradigm of wigs in our history and weaves, we can see that we have been using those for a very long time, whether it was extensions made of human hair or whether it was made from animal tails or wool or other.
Alors, il y a des personnes qui peuvent porter des perruques pour différentes raisons. Il y en a qui les portent pour des raisons de santé, d'abord, parce qu'elles ont beaucoup de problèmes, et au final, ça les handicape vis-à-vis d'elles-mêmes et vis-à-vis des autres. Donc, on ne peut pas les indexer pour ça.
So wearing a wig in itself is not the problem, because there's different reasons why one would wear wigs. So first, they could be people who wear it for health reasons, because they have medical conditions that prevent them and from showing their real hair, and it is really a handicap for themselves and for the people that look at them.
Il y en a d'autres qui les portent juste pour changer de tête, tout simplement, sans avoir à transformer chimiquement la structure de leurs cheveux. Donc, elles peuvent passer d'un cheveu bouclé à un cheveu lisse et autres, même la couleur, vert, jaune ou rouge.
And other people just wear it to be able to change their hair without chemically changing the structure of their actual hair. So that's going to be for coloring, or maybe going from curly hair to straight hair and so on.
Il y en a d'autres, c'est pour un côté pratique, parce qu'elles se disent que le matin, ça va vite, pas besoin de trop toucher la tête. Mais celle-ci, c'est parce qu'en fait, elle ne maîtrise pas le soin du cheveu afro.
For other people, it's just a practical reason, because in the morning, it's easier to just come, take the weave, brush it a little bit and put it on. But that's essentially because those people don't really know all the aspects and all the techniques of natural hair taking.
Et enfin, je dirais qu'il y en a certaines qui tout simplement n'aiment pas la structure de leurs cheveux, qui en ont honte, qui peuvent être complexées pour X et Y raisons, donc qui n'aiment pas le cheveu crépus.
And for others, it could be because they simply do not accept the structure of their frizzy hair, and they do not like it, and they don't want to come out as with this hair.
Mais c'est là que moi j'interviens en tant que cheveutologue. C'est tout simplement pour dire que le cheveu crépus n'existe pas.
And it might shock some people, but this is where he comes in, and he has this message that kinky or frizzy hair, as people call it now, simply does not exist.
C'est la mauvaise utilisation, c'est l'utilisation des mauvais produits ou le mauvais soin du cheveu qui rend le cheveu crépus.
It is only the lack of proper care and the use of proper products that makes it frizzy or kinky, as we call it, but it is not the primary nature of our.
Juste pour illustrer rapidement, aucun, je dis bien aucun enfant noir n'est né avec le cheveu crépus. Il va naître soit avec le cheveu lisse, soit avec le cheveu ondulé, soit avec le cheveu bouclé, mais pas avec le cheveu crépus.
And to illustrate, people have to understand that absolutely no Black children was born with frizzy or kinky hair. Regular Black or mixed children can be born either with straight hair, curly hair, or wavy hair, but not frizzy or kinky.
De plus, une dernière question, entre guillemets, que je pose. En anglais, on dit du cheveu qu'il est kinky. Mais sauf que je parle pas bien anglais, mais j'ai quand même regardé ce que signifie kinky. Kinky, bon, en fait, c'est synonyme de tout ce qui est tordu, pervers, vicieux, bizarre. Alors, est-ce qu'on parle vraiment des cheveux d'un être humain digne de son nom lorsqu'on dit qu'il a un kinky hair?
And when we pay attention, Nsibentum said he doesn't speak English very well, but when he looked at the synonyms of the word kinky, the first words that come up are perverted, vicious, weird. At this point, are we even talking about human beings' hair?
Donc voilà, le choix, le fait d'utiliser une perruque en soi n'est pas un problème. C'est maintenant la durée pendant laquelle on utilise la perruque sur la tête. Si on l'utilise 9 mois sur 12, là, ça commence à devenir problématique parce que ça peut causer d'autres problèmes derrière.
So for us, the discussion is not necessarily about do we wear wigs and weaves or not, but is rather on how long do we wear them for. So if a woman or even men, if they wear it for 9 months out of 12, then there is a problem, not only in terms of identity, but also because it could bring serious medical conditions.
Dont justement parfois des mycoses.
And we can cite
bactéries.
Yeah, bacteria.
Parce que, désolé mesdames, je vais devoir vous taquiner un instant, mais une femme noire, si jamais on veut la reconnaître en faisant un jeu d'ombre et qu'on met plusieurs femmes, un jeu d'ombre chinoise et qu'on met plusieurs femmes derrière, on va très facilement reconnaître la femme noire.
And he doesn't want to attack us women, but he says that to recognize a black woman, if we use Chinese shadows and we put three women in there, there's a simple way to recognize a black woman.
Soit elle va gratter,
So either she's going to be scratching her hair,
soit elle va prendre un stylo et elle va pointer,
or she's going to take a pen and stick it through her hair,
ou soit elle va prendre la main et elle va taper.
or she's going to simply take her hand and just tap on her head like that.
Alors, j'ai envie de vous dire que la femme noire est la seule qui va autant se gratter ou avoir autant de soucis au niveau de la tête comparé à la femme asiatique, la femme blanche, la femme indienne. Donc ça prouve déjà qu'il y a un petit souci derrière.
So it may be funny to everybody, but the black woman is pretty much the only woman that scratches her hair that much compared to white women, Asian, or Indian women. So just this gesture shows that there is a problem even bigger than what we may think.
Pourquoi? Parce que si demain vous commenciez, vous mesdames, je vous aime, hein, mais si demain vous commenciez à avoir un problème de démangeaison au niveau des jambes, ou voire même à l'entrejambe, je vous donne même pas une journée ou 2 jours, grand maximum, pour aller voir un spécialiste.
And Nsibentum says that he loves us women, but it is very understandable that if any of us had this scratch on our legs or even on our vulva, for example, it wouldn't go a day without us going to the doctor to see what's going on.
Mais pour les cheveux et le cuir chevelu, on accepte. Donc ça prouve qu'en fait, notre corps continue à nous parler, mais on n'arrive toujours pas à l'écouter, tout simplement.
But when it comes to our hair and our scalp, we don't listen. So the thing is that our body keeps talking to us and keeps warning us, but we simply don't listen anymore.
Donc, je résume juste, je ne suis pas contre la perruque, bien au contraire, mais je dis juste qu'il ne faut pas forcément en abuser. Voilà mon propos.
So to summarize what he just said that he's not firmly against weaves or wigs, but we shouldn't wear them for too long and abuse of their use.
Thank you for this great contribution. I think it was interesting for us to go back and look as well at the health consequences of wearing particular hairstyles. Now I want to move to actually the places where we go get our hair done. So for us ladies, it's the hair salon, and for men, it's the barber shop. So Nate, I want to hear from you and from your relationship going to the barber shop. What does it mean? How does it feel like to go to the barber shop?
The barber shop is a very important place, I think, culturally, because your barber, it's like you can speak to your barber normally about things that you probably wouldn't speak to people that you see regularly about. So you can have conversations with your barber and you feel as though he's going to be maybe less biased, or, you know, he doesn't know you that well. How many people does he see a day? You know, for me, I've grown up with the same barber my entire life. Until I've stopped cutting my hair, I had one barber. When I moved house, I moved out of London. I still traveled into London to go and see that same barber to get my hair cut. You know, there's like a communication that you can have. There's like a culture, you know, within the barbershop. You know, there's like a friendship that you develop with your barber, that you kind of like, with all the things that you tell him, he basically watches you grow up. He learns all your secrets, you know, and then before you know it, that's your guy.
Would you agree with that, Nsibentum, that once you have one barber, basically you stick with him?
Je suis d'accord avec ça, mais pour moi, c'est un peu plus atypique dans le sens où je fais beaucoup d'expérimentations, que ce soit au niveau du cheveu et de la barbe, donc je change quand même assez régulièrement. Mais effectivement, je suis tout à fait d'accord avec Nate. La relation avec le barbeur est très, très importante et elle remonte même depuis la nuit des temps.
So when it comes to him, it's a little bit more atypical because he likes to do experiments, whether it's about his hair or his beard, and go to different places. But he definitely agrees that finding one barber and sticking to him is something that has been cultural even for the longest time.
Je développe, Marcy?
Non, je pense que ça va. I think thank you for this point. It was interesting to say that the barber shop is a particular place, but I want you actually to explain a bit more about also all the conversation that take place in that specific space. Because when we discussed prior to the show, there was one specific point that we stressed, which was around the fact that a barber shop or a hair salon is segmented by women, men, so different genders don't mix in that space. And because of that, we develop different kind of conversation and share different knowledge in those spaces. So can you tell us a bit more about what you have seen for the barbershop?
Who?
Nate? Because
Me?
you say who?
Yeah, because I said who in it. That's
Yeah, everybody goes to the barber
I thought I
shop,
was on mute. I thought I was on mute. Yeah, you don't often see many women in the barbershop. You know, there are sort of like one or two that come through from time to time. Sometimes they'll bring children. Sometimes they'll be coming like Sham, you know, to get their hair cut short. But you know, it's normally a very male-dominated space, and because of that, I feel like the environment is almost like I tend to kind of refer to it as a bit of a watering hole. You know, in the savannah, you've got a watering hole where everyone comes. The gazelles go and drink, the lions go and drink. You know, the giraffe will come and drink, and no one will bother each other because you know everyone's come to this one safe space for this one purpose. Do you know what I mean? So that we can all survive in the world, you know, so we can all go out and do our thing. I find that that's the space. You know, there's a lot of masculine energy, a lot of testosterone in one room. But then the barbers that kind of run the shop also have a handle on that energy. You know, they take responsibility for that energy. So it's up to them to obviously make sure that this person doesn't jump in front of that person in the queue. There's not always like a queue. Sometimes it's like you come in, there's a row of chairs, and you just pick one somewhere in the middle. You know, so when is it your turn? How many people are before me? The barber knows. You know, he's on top of it all day. And if you feel like someone jumped in front of you, there's a community feel there. You know, especially when there's like a lot of men in one space. So yeah, but I feel like the energy in the space is very controlled. It's very communal. You know, it's not so like not really what you would expect if you got like a lot of men in one place. You know, there's not really. I haven't ever seen a fight in a barbershop. I'm sure they have happened, but I've never seen a fight in a barbershop. You know, there's never really too many arguments. There's never, you know, anyone coming in and causing too much trouble. Not often, you know, because the barbershop is just like a safe space, I think, for men to go and chill.
Okay. Would you agree with that, Nsibentum?
Je pense que c'est parce que le barbeur, c'est lui qui a les ciseaux, c'est celui qui a les outils qui coupent.
Nsibentum thinks that no many fights happen because the barber is the one that has the scissors that cut, so everybody stays calm.
Mais pour plus sérieusement, je suis tout à fait d'accord avec ce que dit Nate, dans le sens où c'est quelque chose qu'on retrouve partout, que ce soit encore maintenant en Afrique, que ce soit dans toutes les diasporas et autres. Le barbershop, c'était un coin très stratégique.
So, on a more serious note, Nsibentum thinks that he agrees with Nate on what he's saying about the barbershop being this communal place. And even today in Africa and all around the diaspora, we can see that barbershops are very strategic places to be.
Parce que même par le passé, comme je vous disais tout à l'heure, le corps était magnifié. Donc ça veut dire que c'était des moments où les femmes de leur côté allaient se coiffer et entretenaient leur peau, et les hommes de leur côté se coiffaient aussi, se rasaient et entretenaient leur peau.
So to come back to what he said earlier, this sacrality of the barbershop can be explained that before, since we were magnifying the body, there was a specific time that women would go on their side and take care of their body, their hair, and braid it, and men would also go on the other side, cut their beard, and also braid their hair sometimes.
Donc ça se passait, et les gens, en général, c'était un lieu où les gens pouvaient, justement comme Nate le dit si bien, pouvaient un peu se vider la tête, mais c'était un peu comme une sorte de j'ai envie de dire, peut-être de catharsis, je sais pas, mais c'était comme aller chez le psychologue, mais de manière plus ou moins commune. On parlait des femmes, on parlait politique, et on parlait de plein d'autres choses aussi.
So as Nate said earlier, this was a very communal moment where people would go empty their minds. And so for the men, for example, they would talk about women, they would talk about politics, and it would be just like going to the psychologist, but more with this whole communal vibe.
Mais il faut savoir aussi... Oui.
Maybe just I want to have actually Sham's opinion on everything you've just said, because she's wearing her hair short, so she obviously goes to the barber shop as well. So what is your experience of the barber shop? How do you feel as a woman coming in that very testosterone and male dominated space?
Incredibly, I've been extremely well welcomed in that space. To me, barber are like plastic surgeon, literally, because the work they do, sometimes you will see some people coming in when they walk out, you'd be like, what? Who's that? And I think it really is as a therapy. I feel extremely welcome, just like as a very peace, rather than when I used to do my hair at the hair salon, I was like anxious, and I would take like one day to go there because the girl will do the cornrows, and then she will sat you in the corner, and you'll be waiting for 4 hours just to get your weave on, you know. So obviously you will get there mad, and everybody's gonna be mad. And I like when you say we haven't seen a lot of fight in the barber shop, I have seen a lot of drama in hair salon. I'm not sure that there is a relation to that, or if you could compare. But either way, I had a great relationship with my barber, just because I feel like black men, black and brown men, just feel not judged in that space. They just come to be beautified, and that's on period. So everybody get their own treatment, and that's it, you know.
And now I want to bring into the discussion the next generation, because we've not said much about children so far. And obviously, children are also exposed to those spaces. So I know, for example, Nate, you're quite involved in community bonding projects. And there's one particular project that you are quite involved into that involves mentoring young men. Can you tell us more about that?
That is called, you mean the Manden? Is like it's a youth mentoring program where once a month we sit down with some young boys aged 8 and up, and we just basically give them like a beating at some board games, you know, maybe at Connect 4, at chess, at Owari, you know, we'll kind of just play them. And while we're playing with them, you know, we'll ask them how school, you know, what you like, depends on how old they are, you know, but like, have you got a girlfriend? What are you doing? You know, what do you want to do? We'll kind of just have that conversation with them and create like a safe space for them to sort of open up and connect.
And how would you say that they relate to their hair? Because they're very young, you said 8-year-olds, etc. Have you ever sensed that they felt some kind of discomfort when it comes to their hair or anything of such?
Well, these are all boys, yeah. So I would say that I've noticed two main types now that you've asked. One is the type who has the skin fade and has the line in his hair and looks fresh, and really does kind of, I don't know, either his mum is looking after him or he really cares. And then you've got the type who is rolling around on the floor and his hair is is just is kind of just anyhow, and he's just kind of letting it do whatever it's doing. So yeah, I don't know if the boys that I mentor have ever been particularly conscious of their hair, not to the point where they've like brought it up and said, oh, in conversation, but you can see that some of them definitely do take care of their hair. Some of them definitely do take more care of their hair than some of them take more care of their appearance than others. Some just don't really, are not too fussed, but some of them definitely are.
I raised this question because recently in the UK, there's been 2 cases involving boys and their relationship to hair. So the most recent one is the case of Farouk James, who's got very abundant and luxurious hair and who's been refused entry to school because his hair was deemed unfit or unsuitable for the school space for going to school, as per the policy of that school. And he even went on TV to explain with his mother that he would not want to cut his hair. And prior to that, there was another case of a young boy as well who was wearing locks and was also refused entry to school for that specific reason. So it seems that when boys have longer hair, society responds differently to them. Maybe in Nsibentum, as you been wearing your hair long for a long time, what's your take on that?
Ma position, elle est, on va dire qu'elle est un peu double parce que je comprends d'abord la réaction de ceux qui sont dans le pays hôte, on va dire, c'est-à-dire l'Angleterre, ou en tout cas les pays européens, quand ils commencent à voir que ces Africains qu'on voyait si discrets à une époque décident de s'affirmer.
So Nsibentum's position is kind of a double position. He has a double view on this subject because on one hand, he can understand the feeling of the people in the host country, so per se the UK or European countries, Western countries in general, to see that these Africans that used to be so quiet and not expressive about their hair are now stepping up and actually wearing them the way they want to.
Donc du coup, pour eux, ça fait bizarre que ces Noirs commencent à porter leurs cheveux bizarrement, de manière inhabituelle pour eux et aussi pour nous-mêmes Noirs.
So it is weird for them to now see that these Black people in general are wearing their hair in this weird way, actually unusual way, whether it is for us or for them.
Parce que l'observation ou le rapport à un petit garçon comme celui dont tu viens de parler, Marcy, les critiques vont venir non seulement des Caucasiens, mais aussi d'autres Noirs qui sont en Angleterre.
Because, for example, when we look at this young boy, the critics about this hair are going to come both from his own people, Black people, but also from Caucasian people.
Et en fait, là, pour moi, en tant qu'observateur, je me rends compte qu'il fallait tout simplement s'y attendre. Et ça va dans l'ordre des choses. Pourquoi? Parce que l'état des cheveux est en lien avec l'état mental et spirituel.
And when we look at the situation, it is something that we should have expected because the state of your hair reflects your state of mind.
Et là, concrètement, il y a une prise de conscience qui est en train de commencer à grandir, et qui fait qu'on peut avoir des petits enfants qui arrivent avec de manière très très affirmée sur ce qu'ils veulent comme coiffure, et je pense que ce n'est pas fini.
And now we have this new generation that's understood more and are more aware of their identity, that just want to come and wear their hair, and are very strict and straightforward on what they want their hair to look like.
I think on that point, thank you for this contribution. Actually, I want to bring it back as well to the question of representation. Recently, the short movie Hair Love has been released. And for those who have not seen the movie, it's a very touching story between a father and his daughter and how he's trying to do her hair in the morning. So I suggest you watch it because it's a very interesting short film. And it raises the question of how us as adults interact with children and their hair. So maybe Sham, what have you seen that the release of this movie has created as an impact, maybe more generally in the representation space?
Well, Matthew A. Cherry, who's the director of this movie, is actually a former NFL player, if I'm not wrong. And he just realized that he wasn't able to do his daughter hair. That's how he understood the importance of representation. You don't see, so you don't do. It's quite very, that's quite a big shortcut, but I guess that's what it is. But in terms of representation now, you see a lot of public figures who actually taking actions towards representation. Lupita Nyong'o with her book, Gabrielle Union with her book. There is another movie coming up with Pixar about jazz and hair and culture as a whole. But I want to say one thing also is that in terms of representation now, I guess our generation realize how important it is. And I feel like everybody put their little bit of strength in it to grow, because you can see I know a lot of mothers have been written books about hair, about the body itself, but hair mainly because hair impacts very intensively our identity. Our hair is a statement, whether you like it or not. Our hair is a statement. So
I would also agree with that comment, and I would actually add on that here in the UK as well, the book "Don't Touch My Hair" has also had a very positive impact, because after reading it, some teachers in school have pushed for the internal schools policy with respect to hair to be more inclusive as well. So as you said earlier, if you don't see, you don't want to do, you don't really know, and you don't really think that this should be included in the discussion, and that everyone should feel comfortable about how they're wearing their hair. So anyone who's not read the book "Don't Touch My Hair," this is one of the books that we would definitely recommend, because not only it covers historically how we related to our hair and everything that Nsibentum said earlier about the marital status when it comes to society. Depending on the different hairstyle you wear, you would be seen differently, but also it goes into the economics of hair. And for example, all the movement of the relaxers up to the change to the natural hair movement. So on that change to the natural hair movement, I have a question for Nsibentum actually, because personally, when the natural hair movement came about, I was a bit puzzled with it, because it seemed that people were indeed dropping relaxers, but they were switching instead to a lot of different products to make their hair curlier, to create more curls, etc. The wash and go stuff, all the YouTubers. So what's your take on the rise of the natural hair movement?
Oui, merci. Alors, justement, c'est une très belle transition parce que ça me permet à la fois de répondre à la question d'avant et à la question actuelle.
This is a great transition because it allows Nsibentum to both answer the first question, the previous question, and the question you just asked.
Parce que à travers tout ce qu'on voit, je ne suis pas contre hein, les dessins animés, beaucoup d'objets de sensibilisation. Il faut qu'on fasse attention à une chose, c'est qu'en fait, on commence aussi à faire une sorte de nappy washing ou natural washing, c'est-à-dire que les gens, plus on commence à voir des choses qui deviennent mainstream, et plus il y a de chances que le mouvement dérive, s'il faut parler de mouvement.
Nsibentum's not against on all this new movement where we have cartoons and videos about nappy hair and natural hair, but as it becomes more mainstream and we see it more on the media, there's more chance that if there is an actual movement, it might strive away from what it was initially purposed to do.
Pourquoi? Parce que au final du final, tout ça c'est un business. Pour certaines personnes, c'est d'abord un business.
We can't hear you, Sona.
It seems like she froze.
Oh, she froze. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just.
Non, je pense qu'on l'entend, mais
she froze.
Ah, okay.
I think she froze. But basically, what Nsibentum was saying is that there is a strong question of economics as well in the discussion, because one should not forget that they are willing to sell products first. So this is one point that we have to take into account when we have this discussion around the natural hair movement, because the motives behind pushing those products is capitalism as well. Have I missed something, Nsibentum? Est-ce que j'ai raté un point?
Non, bah, je ne saurais pas te dire de toute façon.
Okay.
Mais,
you haven't missed anything. I heard
oui, il n'y a pas de souci.
Okay,
J'ai confiance. Mais surtout, ce qu'il faut comprendre, un exemple, on va vous dire que le défrisage n'est pas bon, tout le monde le sait, mais on vous propose la même chose que le défrisage, mais sous un autre nom. Ah.
Okay, so what he's saying is that he's not really willing to tear down and put to the side relaxers per se, but what they do in that discussion is that they take off one thing, relaxers, and then they give you something else, but that something else is not necessarily better or worse than what you had before. So basically it's chemicals all in all. Did you have any other comment that you wanted to add on that economics part? Est-ce que tu voulais ajouter autre chose, pardon, sur les aspects économiques?
Oui, dans le sens où nous sommes d'abord et avant tout des consommateurs, en fait, au final, déjà.
I think he wants to emphasize that on this question, we are seen as consumers in that space. So this is one point that one should not forget when we're talking about the natural hair movement. Moving on to the next point, I want to go back to children actually. And I remember when we discussed in the panel previously, Nate in particular, you referred to children and how it is important to complement their hair. Can you tell us a bit more about why you do that?
Yeah, of course. Well, I was mentioning that I feel like it's really important to build their self-esteem for sure. As long as you're being sincere in your compliment, you know, children will definitely pick up on that. I find that children tend to be very complimentary of people in general, you know. So children will come up and be like, I like your hair, or you know, oh, I love your dress, you know. Like children will often bring that energy with them. So I find that it's also really nice to reciprocate, but it's definitely nice to bring that energy to them first, even if they don't bring it to you, to, you know, to make them feel more confident in wearing their hair, you know, naturally, or just the way that they're wearing it. I feel like something that you say to a child can honestly last them for the rest of their life, you know. And I feel like that's so easily overlooked. You can say to a child, wow, you look so pretty, and she'll be like, thank you, and then that's it, you know, that is it. Like, she's walking around with her chin up the rest of the day, you know. The next time she puts on that same top, she's gonna feel good, you know. Like, then when she's 10 years time, she'll wear the same color, yellow, and she'll think, yeah, yellow is my color. She'll remember it for the rest of her life, you know. So if you fuel their, you know, feed their little minds with these compliments, you know, for their hair, because it's really important that you know, that Black people in general look after their hair and take care of their hair, you know. I feel like we've perhaps gone through a period, because obviously we're now speaking about this resurgence or this new natural hair that everyone is doing. We've gone through a period of not looking after our hair, burning it, you know, of just cutting it, of just like not looking after it, not taking care of it, not nourishing it. So to empower the children to love their hair, oh, your hair looks so nice, wow, look at that, you know, to feed them with that energy means that they will grow up into adults who take care of and nourish and reap the benefits of their hair from throughout their entire lives.
I think that that's a great point, and maybe I would like Nsibentum to add on this point, actually, because you organize master classes as well, and I believe children have a very specific space and a very specific, they play a specific part in those master classes. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Oui, alors j'organise des masterclass effectivement qui, déjà, je précise, elles sont gratuites, sont totalement gratuites parce que l'enseignement que j'ai reçu, je l'ai reçu gratuitement, donc je le transmets aussi gratuitement. C'est la première précision.
So Nsibentum actually organizes master classes, and the precision he would like to make is that those master classes are completely free, because when he learned these techniques via Dame Louet, they were absolutely free. So the transmission in itself should also be free.
Et à chaque masterclass, j'insiste toujours pour que les enfants aussi viennent. Déjà, parce qu'il y a moins de dégâts en général sur leurs cheveux.
So Nsibentum always insists when he does his master classes for the parents to bring the children, because the first reason is that usually in children there's less damage on their hair, on their scalp.
Et ensuite parce que on s'est rendu compte que les enfants parfois peuvent venir avec leur téléphone, leur tablette et autres, mais quand ils rentrent à la maison, même 1 ou 2 jours plus tard, ils peuvent parfois faire la remarque à leurs parents: ah non 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 maman, c'est pas ça qu'il a dit le monsieur là, il a dit il faut pas se laver comme ça, faut pas traiter les cheveux comme ça. Donc on se rend compte que les enfants captent vraiment, et souvent c'est eux-mêmes qui retiennent le mieux les process.
And another thing he noticed was that sometimes children would come and be in the room, play on their phones or tablets. You would think they do not pay attention, but even a couple of days after the master classes, sometimes they would look at their mom and be like, "No, no, mom, that's not what Nsibentum said. You should do this like that and like this." So when you look at it further, they're really the ones that understand the process the more.
I think I want to add in the discussion again about children. What happens when we grow up is that we go to work, obviously. And myself, for example, I work in the corporate field, and I am not necessarily allowed to wear any different hairstyles that I want. So what are your comments in the panel about how we can be creative and try to stay ancestral in the way we rock our hair to go to work? Maybe Nate, because I know that you've transitioned between being in the corporate space to now being an entrepreneur, and I see now you're being very creative with your hair. Sorry.
How the question was how we can be creative in a corporate space with our hair.
How we can be creative with our hair, taking into account the structural and economical constraints that we have in society.
I mean, if I'm just going to speak from the heart and be honest, a part of the reason that I went self-employed is so that I didn't have to I could be myself, you know, wherever I go. If you want to do business with me, then you're going to have to accept my hair and my beard. Do you know what I mean? Because this is how I look. So I would definitely be an advocate for anyone who is experiencing difficulties in that field, anyone who's having trouble maybe at work because of they're being told to sort of fit into a certain bracket, to consider going self-employed and to consider working for yourself in a field that you're proficient in, so that you can champion we can change the idea of a professional, of what a professional looks like. I mean, look at Boris Johnson's hair. Yeah. This is he's the prime minister. And we've kind of got like this idea of professional hair and not professional hair, and if you're working somewhere and they tell you that your hair is not professional, then they're wrong, really. If your hair is what grows out of your head, in my opinion, So I would definitely suggest that if your manager, who believes that your hair is not appropriate, was perhaps to meet an entrepreneur, another businessman on his level, or like a CEO who has the same hair as you, and then he meets another CEO who has the same hair as you, is going to switch up his perspective. He's going to think, actually, wow. So I just feel as though really what we need to be doing right now, instead of conformity, which I understand code switching is a must and conformity is a must from time to time, in fact, a lot of the time. But the best way to avoid it really is to forge your own path.
I agree. And maybe, Sham, what would you say on that? One would assume that if you're in the industries of fashion or media, etc., you would have slightly more flexibility in terms of what you can rock as hairstyle. What's your view on that?
Well, the creative industry or entertainment are the industry that I am in, so it's easier for me to have a creative, if I can call it like that, hairstyle. But I also have a background of corporate in finance, and to me, we shouldn't think about how we could change an organization, I think, regarding the inclusion of our hair, but how do we feel first? Because before even thinking of how creative you can be with your hair, if yourself are not feeling yourself with your hair, that's an issue, you know.
Yeah.
I guess that's where we should start first. Then from there, obviously, you will have. I mean, life is made out of choices, so you will need to make a choice. If you are going in an industry or where you are not accepted for the hair you want to rock, you will then need to balance and take a decision out of it. But to me, it's more how do you feel before anything else.
And maybe Nsibentum, on that point, what would be your take on those questions of hair in the corporate space when it comes to France, for example?
Alors, pour la France, pour ceux qui savent, c'est encore un peu plus compliqué, j'ai envie de dire, parce que déjà culturellement parlant, le colon français était beaucoup plus dur en ce qui concerne nos us et coutumes.
So when it comes to France, for those who know, France is a little bit more complicated because the French colonizer, when he came into Africa, was way harder on our identities and our customs.
Mais je peux commencer par une anecdote, parce que moi-même, en tant qu'homme noir et avec des cheveux longs, auparavant, j'étais dans le domaine de la banque.
So maybe he can start with a little story. So as a black man with long hair was also in the corporate before in finance.
Et lors du recrutement, on m'a posé une question, il y a toujours une question pour troubler, et on m'a demandé, mais ils ont fait exprès, hein, ils ont dit vos locks à la place des nattes couchées, ils ont dit mais vos locks là, vous allez les couper quand vous allez travailler avec nous.
So when he came to the interview, to the job interview, they asked this very specific question just to destabilize him, and they asked him, "These locks that you have," and we can clearly see that these are not locks; they're braids. But they used the word locks, and they asked him if he was gonna cut these locks.
Et je leur ai répondu très simplement, ça dépend de ce que vous voulez. Est-ce que c'est ce que j'ai dans la tête ou sur la tête pour pouvoir travailler avec vous?
And his answer was very simple. It was, it depends on what you want from me. Is it what I have on my head or in my head?
Et j'ai été embauché. J'étais embauché en banque, c'était dans les années 2000. Donc, c'est quand même possible.
And they recruited him. He worked there from in the 2000, the early 2000, and so it's actually possible to get into those corporations with this type of hair.
C'est donc là où je rejoins Charme, dans le sens où il faut d'abord être en équilibre en soi, dans sa tête, avant même de commencer quoi que ce soit.
And that's where he agrees with Sham, as in we have to like our own hair before even expecting others to like it for us.
Et que je rejoins aussi Nate, dans le sens où il faut aussi qu'on soit capable de créer nos propres business, ou même ceux qui ont réussi à entrer dedans, réussissent aussi à embaucher d'autres personnes tout en prenant des postes à responsabilité et en montrant que l'état des cheveux n'a rien à voir avec le professionnalisme.
And he also agrees with Nate on the fact that we should create our own businesses, but also the people in this corporation, white dominantly corporations, should also strive to go further up in the ranking and recruit people that look like us, to just remove this idea that Black hairstyles are not professional.
I think that was a great comment, actually, because it also summarizes some of the comments made by Charm as well as Nate. And I think it's a good way of ending this discussion tonight, because it brings the question of self-sufficiency in the Black community. So we need to create those jobs, and those spaces where our hair is not an issue. So on one side, we have to work on what's in our head, nurturing our hair and applying the proper treatments. But also on the society level, we can't always go and try to find those spaces where we will be accepted. We can also think of creating those spaces where our hair and our identity is not an issue. So I think maybe if people watching us have any crispy questions to add to the discussion, you're most welcome to add them in the comment section so we can start sending them directly to any of the panelists. As far as I am concerned personally, I would like to add maybe one more final question in terms of transmission with children. And when we had the prior show discussion, I said, can everyone give me 2 positive adjectives to describe our hair? So I'm not sure if you guys remembered, but I would want us to end the discussion on a positive note. So maybe, I think Nate, you're good with words, so we start with you.
Yes, so adjectives to describe the hair. I think the 2 that I went with, one was powerful.
Okay.
If I remember rightly, because your hair is functional. You know, it's not just you know, fur that grows out of your head. Like, it actually does serve a purpose. You know, it actually does you know, it does boost intuition. It really does. You know, like it also accents your beauty. You know, so I feel as though your hair itself is very powerful. Since I've been growing my hair, I mentioned this at the beginning of the chat as well, I've noticed an improvement in my intuition, like threefold. You know, I really have noticed an improvement. So powerful would definitely be one of my 2 words. I can't remember what my second word was. So I'm gonna default to beautiful when discussing
it. Powerful and beautiful. Okay,
powerful
you're being easy with your words.
Am I being easy?
You will take those, because you know I was expecting from a wordsmith to be a bit more I don't know, creative, to, you know, teach us some words
Phantasmagoric.
that we, yeah, some words that we don't usually use on a daily basis. But you chose powerful and beautiful. I will
Yeah,
take that.
thank you.
Sham, what are your words?
I would say versatile, because we can just do everything we want with our hair. um, and it's deeper to me because it really is. I want to insist on that. That is how you feel yourself, without the judgment of the outsiders, about judgment of your family, friends, society, whatever pressure um, exist towards the hair. I would say versatile. And then I
Okay.
would say, yeah, statement, I think.
So
I
versatile
would
and statement.
yeah,
My
versatile.
hair is a statement.
Yeah, I would say
Okay.
statement. Yes, because it's a decision. It's a statement. Whether
I
you like
agree.
it
I
or
agree.
not, it's a statement still.
Okay. I'll take that. Maybe Nsibentum then to finish before we move on to the questions from the audience.
Alors, pour moi, le premier point, on n'a pas forcément pu évoquer par rapport aux cheveux, mais je dirais que pour moi, le cheveu, ça m'évoque la notion de connexion.
So maybe something we have not brought up enough during the discussion is this idea that our hair is a connection.
Pourquoi? Parce que, comme je vous l'ai dit tout à l'heure, rien qu'en regardant les cheveux, il y a déjà tout un dialogue qui se fait avec son environnement, avec les autres. Ils arrivent déjà tout de suite à savoir de qui il s'agit.
Yeah, a statement, as Sham is saying.
Because as I have said before, only by looking at one's hair, we can only start this conversation, this dialogue between the person and its environment. And just as Sham said, to come back to your idea of a statement.
Et aussi donc la connexion avec soi-même.
And the connection with ourselves.
Et enfin la connexion avec l'univers. Je rejoins Nate justement sur cette notion d'intuition à travers le cheveu, à travers les différents poils qui poussent. Là, ça serait un côté assez spirituel, mais il y a cette notion de connexion aussi avec l'univers.
Oh, so there's also this idea of connection with the universe, and that's where he agrees with Nate about this idea of intuition through the hair, and all these things all this fur and hair that comes out of our body are also a way to connect us with our environment and in the universe in general. And if we have to talk about spirituality, we can even go that far with the connection our hair gives us.
Et le deuxième mot, ce serait, là j'utiliserai les termes de Médounéter, donc c'est l'écriture sacrée de l'Égypte ancienne.
And also he would talk about Medunetary, a word which are the sacred scriptures of ancient Egypt.
Et dans cette langue, on disait le mot Néfer.
And in this language, they would talk about the word Nefer.
Néfer qui signifie la beauté.
Which means beauty.
Mais dans la notion de beauté, on parlait aussi le fait d'être accompli.
But by talking about beauty, we were also talking about being whole, being accomplished.
C'est de la même manière que lorsque un artiste a terminé son œuvre, que ce soit une sculpture ou une peinture, à un moment donné, il s'arrête et dit non, il pourrait dire Néfer, dans le sens où c'est beau, c'est terminé, c'est accompli.
And it's in that way that when an artist finishes its craft, whether it is a painting or a sculpture, he could take a moment and say Néfer. That would mean this is done, this is accomplished.
Okay. I think this is a great combination of words that you guys have suggested to describe our hair. I think I've seen one question requesting tips in the audience. What can we do to maintain our hair? What tips can you give us? to improve that? What products can we use?
That's great.
Personally, if I can say, my tips would be to educate yourself. It sounds a bit weird, but by educating yourself, that helps. I know that I have a hair coach now. Her name is Naturally Ashanti Coaching, if you're interested. But she takes you to a journey where you get to know your hair. So I think the education part is very important. And most importantly, everybody's hair is different. It's part of your DNA, so it's unique, you know. So I guess you can have, as a whole, like for everything, drinking a lot of water, understanding the porosity. But in terms of product, I personally do only natural, and I personally follow whatever my hair coach said.
And maybe Nsibentum, if you want to give us more advice in this respect.
Alors, je vais avoir l'impression de ne pas répondre à la question, mais je vais dire que le bon produit n'existe pas. Le produit miracle n'existe pas.
Okay.
Maybe through my answer, you would think that he's not answering the question, but he would start off by just saying that the ideal, perfect product for everybody does not exist.
Je m'explique. La chose qu'on apprend dans l'ancestralité, c'est d'abord à écouter. Et la première chose qu'on doit d'abord écouter, c'est nous-mêmes. Ensuite, c'est ce qui nous entoure, donc la végétation et tout le reste. Ensuite, les autres et enfin, l'univers.
So when it comes to listening and taking care of our body, the first thing we should do and the first thing we should listen to is ourselves. So our hair, our skin, and then we should listen to what surrounds us. So it's nature, vegetation, and then listen to the people around us and then the universe.
Donc la première chose qu'on doit faire lorsqu'on veut un bon produit pour nous, c'est d'abord d'écouter notre corps et notre peau en faisant des petits tests pour savoir qu'est-ce qui est bon pour nous. Parce que même deux jumeaux n'auront pas forcément la même huile pour leurs cheveux ou pour leur barbe.
So the first thing to do when it comes to choosing the right product is first to listen to ourselves via small tests with different oils to see which one suits us the most. Because even sometimes twins don't use the same oils and the same products because they don't have the same needs.
Wow.
Voilà à peu près un résumé de ce que je peux expliquer même lors des masterclass.
So this...
We can't hear you clearly, Sana. Maybe if you can just repeat the point, Nsibentum, and I'll translate it as your screen froze.
Je crois que je disais que c'est à peu près ça, que c'est l'une des choses que j'explique lors des masterclass.
Okay, so Nsibentum was saying that this is more or less what he would explain in his longer masterclasses. So if you want to have more details about how to look after your hair, or the hair treatment, what's good, what's not good, it's definitely best to go on the masterclass with him. I want to move on to the next question, which is also actually for you, Nsibentum. The question is, how difficult was it to find and approach local people on the continent for them to transmit their ancestral knowledge on hair, and where did you start? So,
En fait, étrangement, c'était plutôt facile.
So strangely, he says it was quite easy.
Pourquoi? Parce qu'en fait, l'Afrique on pense souvent que l'Afrique est un peu bizarre, mais l'Afrique est très protocolaire.
We usually tend to think that Africa is very strange and not necessarily organized, but there are lots of protocols in the culture.
Et je dis et je répète que tout Africain, ou même toute personne ayant grandi même dans la diaspora, dans la Caraïbe et autres, qui a été éduquée, je dis bien éduquée et non pas instruite, saura comment se comporter avec des anciens, que ce soit au village ou même dans une grande ville.
So he says that when you come from the diaspora, whether it is in Europe or in the Caribbean, and you go to Africa, if you've been educated and not instructed as per, let's say, the European system, you will always find a way to connect with those people with respect.
Un exemple, on ne vient jamais les mains vides. On ne demande pas à ce que tout de suite on nous donne la réponse à la question. Non, c'est pas comme ça.
So you would never come empty-handed to any places you go. You always come from something and with respect before you engage any discussions with people.
Juste pour anecdote, une fois, je suis parti voir un vieux et il était tellement content qu'il a presque ramené tout le village et qu'il a dit, lui, c'est mon petit-fils, il vient de plus de 8000 kilomètres juste pour me voir et pour me poser des questions. Et là, vous avez ouvert non seulement le cœur du vieux, mais aussi tout son amour, quoi. Et là, il donne.
So, for example, one of his particular stories with people on the land is that when he visited an elderly in a village, he was so happy to claim that his son came from 8,000 kilometers away to visit him to gain the knowledge. So, just building on that connection and the fact that he came from far to have that discussion has really helped ease down the discussion for everyone to share the knowledge.
Voilà.
Okay. Maybe I have seen another question on economics.
Yes.
So the question is, can I ask about the high sums of money Black women spend on our hair that goes to other communities in order to maintain someone else's beauty ideals? So that's a great question because, yeah, it's a great question. We spend so much money on buying hair extensions, buying products, and all of that wealth goes outside the community. And on top of that, we do all of that to match as much as possible European standards. What's your take on that? Maybe Nate, actually. Yeah, Nate, I would like to hear you about the economics on this one.
Well, what is the question? Is the question why do we spend that much money, or is the question?
I think it's about having your views and your opinion on the amount of money that we generate in that specific industry. At least that's how I understand it. Maybe Coco, if you want to clarify your point, but how I understand her question is that she wants to have the panel view on the amount of money we put in hair and that goes outside the community.
It is absolutely no secret that, you know, that I think Black women specifically spend, you know, large amounts of money on their hair. It's not a market that we own. It's not a market that we have cornered. It's not a market that we're in charge of. That's no secret. That's something that everybody knows. I think that the question mentions maintaining someone else's beauty ideals, and I definitely understand that, and I definitely agree with that. But I also feel like, as Nsibentum mentioned earlier, you know, Black women have been adorning their hair for a long time. You know, have been doing things with their hair for so long. So it's not. I wouldn't say it's necessarily just to maintain someone else's beauty ideals. You know, Black women spend money on their hair. Yeah. But the issue, I think the main problem here on the topic of economy is that we're not spending our money with each other. You know, someone else has realized that, oh my gosh, Black women are beautiful and they like to look pretty. You know, here you go, guys, here's a thing that you want, and we are queuing up to give them that money, as opposed to, once again, you know, doing the self-employed thing, cornering the market, you know, and doing it ourselves. However, I do feel there has been like, especially with, you know, in the UK with Black Pound Day, you know, with some of the prejudice that's been quite overt in the States. You know, there is now more people who are setting up, you know, hair salons and nail salons, and, you know, so we are definitely moving in the right direction. But for the most part, yeah, for sure, we're hemorrhaging money within the beauty industry.
But what solutions would you then think we should look into to change and move all of that wealth back in the community? Because, for example, just before you guys answer that question, when you look historically at important Black figures, economically, we would always refer to, for example, Madam C.J. Walker, Annie Turnbull, or I think his name is Alonzo Herndo in Atlanta. And those have always built their wealth in the US in the hair industry. So some were barbers and others were selling treatment for hair. So clearly our first millionaires come from that industry. So how can we bring that back within the community?
Sorry, go ahead, Sham.
Now you go.
Oh, I was just gonna say that I don't think that anybody understands the needs of Black women's hair better than Black women. Nobody understands what you need. Yeah, so I feel like you know, we're quick to sort of buy what's there, but you know what you need. You know. So I feel like if we can maybe take initiative in creating products that don't exist, if we can take initiative in, like Madam CJ Walker, she knew, what you need. Yeah. So if we can take initiative in creating products that are not there, in mixing together shea butter with jojoba oil, with this, with that, with this, do you know what I mean? If we can take that initiative, and then I feel like that would be a good step we could take. Sorry, go ahead, Sham. That was me.
I will definitely bounce back on this in a way that I guess it will come from owning our own narrative in a way that even £2, even a pound, it's an enormous impact in the community. Even, the brush that you use to lay your edges, £1.50 in the corner shop. Well, instead of having it at £1.50, maybe go to a sister that just started a business that cannot afford to make it at £1.50 yet. That has it at £3.50. Well, go get it there, and bring a friend of yours to have it there as well. And then the more she will be able to have customer, she will be able to reduce her price and to raise up figures. So I guess it's us. Where are you spending your money? And I want to bounce back on the kind of highlightment that happened in the beauty industry with Blackout Tuesday, where the Black-owned business about hair care has been highlighted. Which one was Black-owned, and the one that were not. So I guess check up those lists, and instead of having, I don't want to raise up names just as a disclaimer. But instead of going to what started from a C and finishing with a U, go maybe elsewhere,
Yeah, or even the one starting with the S, ending with an E, and who have blessed us with incredible commercials recently, where you discovered that women with curly hair have very, very light skin tone. So as we said, we're not dropping any names, not giving them any specific publicity, but there's been a lot of discussions around where we put our money. So I think the next question we've seen in the comment section is about
Pardon, j'aimerais répondre. Désolé, j'aurais bien voulu répondre à cette question.
Maybe you can just include it in before you answer to the next question, which I think is for you. So the next question is about the place of hair in an ancestral paradigm. So maybe before you answer that one, you can quickly tackle the economics and then move on to the next one, because we only have 5 minutes left. Sorry.
Alors, je suis assez d'accord avec ce que mon frère et ma sœur ont dit. Cependant, effectivement, ça me permet une transition.
I agree with what my sister and my brother have said earlier, but this allows me to do a transition.
C'est que, en fait, je pense que le vrai problème, c'est la notion de paradigme. Nous ne sommes pas dans le bon paradigme. Donc, dès l'instant que nous allons continuer à faire du business dans un paradigme qui n'est pas le nôtre, on tournera plus ou moins en rond. Et je vais m'expliquer.
So the main problem is a problem of paradigm in general. We're talking about creating our own business and everything, but as long as we keep doing businesses in a paradigm that is not ours, that is not our culture, we're going to keep turning around and turning around again.
J'ai beaucoup de respect pour C.G. Walker, Dieu sait que j'en ai, mais il faut quand même que la vérité sorte. Les produits qu'elle réalisait n'étaient pas naturels.
So he has a lot of respect for Mrs. C.J. Walker that a lot of people know, but we have to say the truth. The products she was using were not natural.
Il contenait, je pense, pas mal de soufre. C'est ça qui permet de faire pousser les cheveux, et c'est pas forcément bon pour votre organisme.
They contained a lot of sulfur, which was why the hair was growing so much, but it was not necessarily good for the body.
Et maintenant, en ce qui concerne les femmes, j'ai déjà dit en introduction qu'ils nous ont énormément observés. Donc, depuis la nuit des temps, ils savent que la femme et même l'homme mettent beaucoup de temps et beaucoup de soins dans les produits cosmétiques.
So, as he said earlier, the colonizers have observed us a lot to understand the way we work, and they have noticed that Black women and Black men spend a lot of time taking care of their skin and their hair.
Et ce n'est que lorsqu'ils ont commencé à voir que la population noire commençait à s'émanciper financièrement qu'ils ont commencé à nous proposer du beurre de karité. Ils le savaient depuis longtemps qu'on utilisait du beurre de karité.
So they knew that we were using, for example, shea butter before, but it's only when we were financially able to buy it from them that they actually introduced it into the market for us to buy.
Et donc, même malheureusement, je dois le dire, aujourd'hui, la majorité d'entre nous ne sait pas réellement de quoi notre corps et nos cheveux ont besoin.
And it's unfortunate to say, but the major part of our people, us Black people, don't know what our body and hair need.
Et donc la notion de produire par nous-mêmes, je suis d'accord, mais si on continue à produire dans un système qui se veut capitaliste et autres, c'est un peu comme lorsque on croit qu'on nous a donné, on nous a libérés de l'esclavage. Non, on a fait en sorte que certains ne soient plus esclaves parce que économiquement c'était intéressant.
So if today we can talk a lot about creating businesses and creating our own product, but it is not necessarily, but if we don't create the right product, it's just like when they made us thought that we were free from slavery only because it was economically profitable for them.
Au final, on fonctionne dans un jeu, dans un univers qui n'est pas le nôtre. Je ne prône pas le séparatisme, j'explique juste que c'est pas forcément ce qui est bon pour nous.
So he's not proning separatism to separate the people when he's saying this, but we're evolving in a universe, in a world, in a game that is not ours, that we did not create in the first place.
Okay. Maybe the next question that was raised, you could actually start answering to it. Actually, it is, do you think amongst the natural hair movement, there is an over-focus on obtaining unrealistic, unnecessary hair length goals? So do you think...
Okay. Il y avait déjà la notion de spiritualité et au final, oui, ça pourrait englober les deux. Pour qu'est-ce que le cheveu dans la spiritualité?
So the question of what is hair in the spirituality idea, and which is going to answer to the previous question and this one as well.
Alors donc, je vais commencer par dire ce qu'est le cheveu plus ou moins d'un point de vue spirituel, plus ou moins.
So he's going to start off by saying what does hair represent more or less in the spirituality sphere.
J'en ai déjà parlé tout à l'heure, mais le cheveu, c'est d'abord ce qui recouvre le siège de la pensée, la tête.
So first, the hair is what covers where all the thoughts are created from, which is the head.
Ça protège non seulement du soleil, mais les connaisseurs savent qu'il peut parfois y avoir de l'électricité statique dans les cheveux.
So it not only protects from the sun rays, but people who really know hair know that sometimes it can also have static electricity in the hair.
Donc c'est peut-être, ce n'est qu'une hypothèse, aussi une protection un peu plus que juste du soleil. Ça protège aussi de certaines ondes, peut-être.
So maybe, and that's only a supposition, but that maybe hair not only protects us from sun rays, but maybe from some other waves that are not good for our body and for our mind.
Ça, c'est pour toi, Marcy. Hein. C'est pour ça que je le dis ce soir.
Okay.
Pas
And
avec
that
joke.
was for Marcy specifically.
Ensuite, le cheveu, c'est ce qui a une mémoire, c'est ce qui est le témoin de ce qui s'est passé. C'est pour cela que d'un état à un autre, on a souvent tendance à couper les cheveux, lors d'une initiation, lors d'un passage rituel, lors du deuil, par exemple. Et de nos jours, même après une rupture amoureuse ou après un changement d'emploi, on peut aussi couper les cheveux.
So the hair is also what has witnessed events in our lives. So before it was for ritual possessions, or customs, but today, even when you get out of a relationship, or if you just had an argument with your best friend, first thing you go do, okay, I'm going to cut my hair, change the way I look. So it is a way of expressing ourselves and expressing what's going on in our lives.
Et donc, selon l'état de santé, le cheveu peut refléter ce qui se passe à l'intérieur du corps. L'une des preuves, c'est que, par exemple, on peut pratiquer des autopsies et savoir ce que quelqu'un a pu consommer pendant toute sa vie, enfin pendant la vie.
So in this sense, our hair, via the health of our hair, we can understand what has been going on in somebody's life and even in their body, because we have this thing called hair autopsy, where by the hair we can know what once has consumed throughout his entire life.
Raison pour laquelle les cheveux n'étaient pas utilisés n'importe comment et qu'on ne les laissait pas n'importe où.
And that is the reason why hair was not used in so different ways. It was very well taken care of, and you wouldn't leave it in so many places. And even in our country, sometimes when you go to the barbershop or to your braider, you take back your hair with you.
D'ailleurs, ce n'est pas tout le monde qui était autorisé à toucher vos cheveux. Souvent, surtout même au niveau des barbeurs, c'était des initiés qui pouvaient couper les poils de la barbe, parce que ces mêmes initiés étaient souvent ceux qui faisaient aussi la circoncision.
So even for the people who were allowed to touch your hair before, it was not everybody that was allowed to do so. It was through a specific initiation, because usually the people that were touching hair, cutting the beard, are the people who would do other rituals such as
circumcision.
Circumcision.
Yeah.
Donc c'est pour ça que maintenant, aujourd'hui, le mythe d'avoir les cheveux longs et tout ce qui s'ensuit, c'est encore une fois en dehors de notre paradigme.
So today, the whole idea and the whole myth of having long and healthy hair is also something that's outside of our paradigm and that we have taken throughout time.
Puisque dès le départ, on est tel que le Créateur nous a conçus, on se doit de conserver ce qu'il a fait et le sublimer, mais on ne doit pas exagérer. C'est comme quelqu'un qui serait né nain et qui voudrait être plus grand. Dans nos sociétés, même le nain ou même le fou avait sa place.
So it is the idea that the Creator created us beautiful, already perfect. So there was no need for us to hyperbolize it and try to get extra long hair. It's just like an idea of a dwarf trying to get tall. It was unnecessary and illogical.
So maybe can you add, just to follow up on this point, as we're talking about length, there was a question earlier in the panel about cutting boys' hair. If we can just put it back on screen so people can follow up. What's your view on this habit to cut boys' hair short?
Le fait de les couper, les cheveux des garçons, la première fois ou bien tout le temps?
Continuously, en permanence.
Alors là, je vais peut-être choquer beaucoup de monde, mais le fait d'avoir les cheveux courts aussi bien pour le petit garçon que pour l'homme en général, tel que Nate l'expliquait tout à l'heure, ça nous vient du côlon la plupart du temps.
So this might be shocking for a lot of people, but the idea of having boys with really short hair and even men with really short hair is an idea that was given to us by the colonizers.
Pourquoi? Parce qu'en fait, le noir, l'homme noir, musclé, compétent, qui ne dérange personne, en général, c'est l'esclave. Que ce soit pour un travail physique ou même maintenant, avec un costard-cravate, en fait, il se doit d'être crâne rasé, opérationnel et faire son travail tout simplement.
Because there's this idea of the black man, very well built and physically with a lot of strength, was only to be used as a slave and only for labor. And even today, even if they wear a tuxedo or something, it is still the same idea of the black man, very well built, but only working to be operative and to be efficient as more as possible. So his hair has to be short.
Alors, je taquine un peu les hommes noirs, ne le prenez pas mal, mais c'est juste pour vous faire comprendre que on n'est pas obligé d'avoir seulement le crâne rasé. Il y avait dans d'autres fonctions où on pouvait raser le crâne, lors d'initiation, comme j'ai dit, certains grands prêtres dans l'Égypte ancienne, ou même encore actuellement, ont le crâne rasé, mais le crâne rasé, ce n'est pas une obligation.
So, to talk a little bit to black men, having their hair cut short is not an obligation at all. Well, in the ancient times, some people had it for initiations, for example, or even religious people, eminent religious people had it before, but it is in no way an obligation to have it short.
Donc, avoir le crâne rasé va dépendre de qui rase le crâne, que ce soit directement ou indirectement. Si de vous-même, vous décidez de raser le crâne, par exemple, comme la charmante Charme, il n'y a pas de problème. Mais si on vous impose de raser le crâne pour aller travailler, pour faire telle ou telle chose, eh bien, en fait, là, c'est un signe de domination sur vous. Vous n'avez qu'à voir, lorsque vous faites le service militaire, la première chose qu'on fait, on vous rase tous le crâne pour pouvoir vous imposer certaines choses au niveau militaire.
So, when it comes to the question of having our hair short, well, for men, it's not the idea of having it short or not, it's who cut it. If it's you who have willingly decided to cut it, and he mentioned the beautiful charm, for example, when it's a choice, it's totally acceptable. It's your choice. It's how you want to wear it. But if it's something that was imposed on you, it's a form of domination. And he gave the example of, for example, military service. The first thing they do is they cut your hair to show you that they have the power and that they're going to tell you what to do.
And maybe because you've given us all of this information, a question earlier raised in the comments said, do you have any books? So is this something you have done, you're looking into doing?
Alors, au départ, lors de mes précédents lives, j'ai toujours dit non. Je ne souhaite pas écrire de livres.
So before, my answer to that question in the other lives I've done was always no. I do not want to write a book.
Parce que je ne veux pas qu'on fige trop les informations et que plus tard, ça finisse un peu comme un livre sacré. Nsibentum a dit que, Nsibentum n'a pas dit que, donc non.
Because he did not want people to freeze this idea into this very straightforward, into this cube, into this box where Nsibentum said this and Nsibentum did not say that. And he wanted the knowledge to be fluid.
Et c'est aussi pour cela que nos anciens qui savaient écrire n'ont pas forcément tout écrit. Dans le sens où un mensonge aujourd'hui peut devenir une vérité demain et une vérité aujourd'hui peut devenir un mensonge demain.
And even our ancient people who had a lot of knowledge and who could write did not write everything, because something that is true today might not be tomorrow, and something that is a lie today might be a truth tomorrow.
Donc moi je crois en l'oralité. Nos anciens n'étaient pas bêtes. S'ils ont passé par l'oralité, c'est ce qui, selon moi, nous a protégés et ce qui a fait que les gardiens du temple existent encore aujourd'hui.
And he believes in orality. talking about stuff, because our ancient people were not dumb. They did not use the oral way of transmitting knowledge for no reason. And he believes that this way of using words instead of writing is what has protected us throughout time and has allowed guardians like Dame Louette to still be here and to still be able to teach us all these techniques.
C'est à travers ça que nous acquérons l'éternité, c'est qu'on transmet à quelqu'un de la connaissance, de l'information, et pendant qu'on lui transmet, on apprend aussi encore. Aujourd'hui même, j'ai continué à apprendre auprès de vous, et c'est ce qui m'arrive à chaque fois que j'organise justement des masterclass, et c'est pour ça qu'elles sont gratuites et pas sur le net.
So the idea of transmission is very important to Nsibentum, because it is what has allowed all our people to try to pass on knowledge, but to also learn from people. And this is why there is no book, and that everything is free for him, and that you can't find it payable somewhere on the internet.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. There's one particular demographic that we've not really touched on. I've seen a question from someone who's bald. Du coup, moi qui n'ai plus de cheveux, what do we do for our people? Just their hair doesn't grow out. What can we tell them? We love you, by the way.
On entretient la peau, c'est-à-dire le cuir chevelu déjà, et ça ne veut pas dire que ça ne repoussera pas forcément.
So first, the very idea is to take care of the scalp in itself, and that doesn't necessarily mean that your hair won't grow anymore.
Okay, I think that's a great way of transitioning and closing out this discussion that we've had on hair, ancestrality, and also how we in the diaspora navigate society, trying to claim back our roots as well. I think a lot of great comments were made that were bringing even more comments in the discussion. So if we had to keep it for 4 hours, we would easily add enough content with all of the different topics we've touched into. But I want to now use this part to just give you the floor to share with us your social media pages where we can find you guys and link up with you if necessary. So maybe Charm first. Where can we find you?
Well, I'm here. So you can find me on, so I have a publishing company called Manifest Editions. So we have a website, www.manifesteditions.com. or on Instagram, manifest without the E .editions with an S, and we will find us, me and my team. And if you want to reach me personally for any type of services related to producing or even hosting, that would be at Instabasham on Instagram.
Maybe, thank you, Charm. Thank you so much. And thank you for being our eyes on fashion and representation in this discussion. Nate, where can we find you?
So I'm on social media as Nate the Lyricist. I am a writer first and foremost. So that's where you'll be able to kind of catch up with any poetry that I write. Any new projects. I've got a new project dropping hopefully within the next month or so. So please do keep your eyes. Yeah, please do keep your eyes open. I've definitely got some stuff that's coming. There's nothing about hair on it as of yet, but obviously I'm a poet, so you know I've learned all this information. At some stage, for sure, I'm gonna be, you know, I'm gonna speak. I just speak about what I know, so I'll definitely be speaking about hair at some point. But I haven't got anything on this project up and coming. But yeah, watch the space. Nate the Lyricist on social media. And thank you for also tagging my event, which is Conversations with the Constellations. So you see at the bottom of the screen, C with the C. It's a zodiac themed poetry event. So it's the first Saturday of every month on Instagram at C with the C. And what I do is I study astrology. So next up is Leo. I'll study the basics of Leo. It's a fire sign, it's a fixed sign, it's what's its ruling planet is the sun, so on and so forth. And then all of the poets that perform, all of them are born in Leo season. So all of them are Leo sun signs. And we just observe and kind of just, it's an experiment. It's really interesting. I've learned so much. I've been doing it for a year now. Leo Virgo is when I started. So after Leo, it's going to be 1 full year, and then we're going to go around again. So I've learned loads and loads and loads. Definitely worth coming and checking out. But for most things, you'll find me on Nate the Lyricist.
Thank you so much for that, Nate. And I have attended actually one of his events for Cancer, and it was really interesting and insightful. So thank you so much, Nate, for joining the discussion and bringing your point of view as well as someone who's not an expert on her. I think that's what makes the discussion a lot more interesting. To finish up, Nsibentum, our special guest from Paris, where can we find you?
Alors, on peut me trouver sur les réseaux sociaux, à savoir donc Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Vous tapez juste Nsibentum, donc tu pourras épeler, hein, Sofna.
Okay, so you can find Nsibentum on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram by just typing Nsibentum. So it's written down here. But if you want to spell out Nsibentum.
Et surtout, je le dis déjà parce que beaucoup de gens sont très surpris lorsque je réponds. Moi, je dis écrivez-moi, il n'y a aucun problème. Et les gens sont surpris parce que je réponds et ils se disent que j'ai forcément beaucoup de gens à qui m'envoient des messages. C'est vrai, mais depuis le moment où j'ai décidé d'être visible, je prends aussi ce temps de vous répondre.
And for example, for all the people who did not have the chance to ask all the questions they wanted today, Nsibentum really wants to put the emphasis on the fact that he answers to your questions on his social media platforms. So people are often very surprised that he answers so much, but he really insists on the fact that since he decided to become visible and to come to social media and talk about hair, he also made the effort to talk to everybody and to answer to all your questions.
Et même justement en anglais, parce que comme vous l'avez vu, j'en profite aussi pour remercier Sofna, eh bien, je peux répondre à travers Sofna et une partie de mon équipe. Je te remercie beaucoup, Sofna, pour la traduction. Et j'ai aussi un site qui s'appelle Nsibentum.africa, sur lequel vous pouvez vous inscrire à la newsletter. Et le site sera bientôt actif pour que vous ayez beaucoup plus d'informations que sur les réseaux sociaux.
And he also insists on the fact that you can reach him out even if you have questions in English, because he has a whole team for him to answer your questions in English and your insights. And you can also see what he's doing on Nsibentum.africa. And there you can sign up to the newsletter. The website is going to be active really soon. Yes.
Et surtout, oui, et justement, donc, pour les personnes qui ont posé les questions sur les produits, c'est en vous inscrivant à la newsletter que vous aurez accès à ce qu'on a appelé le kit de renaissance, qui vous explique comment fabriquer vous-même vos produits cosmétiques uniquement avec des produits naturels et comment donc vous en sortir. Voilà.
So, and even for the people who had questions about what products they should use, by signing up to this newsletter, you have the Renaissance kit that will allow you to understand more how to use what products when. So whether it's shampoo, daily care, and there's even a challenge going on, and back to Ancestrality challenge. And you could see that on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and everything is available on the website too.
Merci.
Thank you so much for this, and thank you for joining in from Paris. Thank you as well for the translation, Sohna. That really helped a lot, because we have an audience at Lisanga that speaks either English or French, and sometimes both. And it is very important for us at Lisanga to keep the discussion going and the knowledge being shared, regardless of the language barriers. So that's something that us at Lisanga, we put a lot of emphasis on, because we believe in that transmission through discussion and debates. So that's why in the events we organize, there's always some time to share knowledge and to have that space just where we can just raise questions. We don't know everything, but we learn from each other. And usually when we have those discussions, no one is an expert in anything. We're all panelists at the same level. And it's really about just sharing the information, and sometimes the tips and the recommendations, books come out from that. So that's really what we value doing at Lisanga. I think I'm the last one to have to say words about where you can find us and etc. Before I do so, I want to thank everyone who tuned in tonight. You guys are amazing. I've seen you very active in the comments and really interesting and going in depth in this discussion with the panelists. We really hope that you enjoyed this format and that you learned a lot of information. If you have to press that bell and subscribe to the channel. And then you have to share it and tell all your friends it was amazing. So I'm not going to take that much of your time. My name is Marcy. You can find me on social media as well. The social media pages are at Lisanga Vibes, sometimes lisanga.vibes. But you can find everything on our website, which is currently under construction as well. And in the meantime, you can also sign up to our newsletter and check out the podcast that we've recently released, where we're going to keep that discussion of talking and sharing more knowledge, because we do believe in the fact that not everything has to be in a book to be valuable. So as far as I am concerned, I'm very happy with the panel as well. So thank you guys so much for putting a lot of effort over the last 2 weeks to push all of this to come to this wonderful conversation today. So I'm not going to take much of your time. But
Thank you,
thank
Marcy.
you very much.
Thank you, Marcy.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Anyway.
And everybody that's been listening to us as well.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I think
everyone.
we've had a private WhatsApp group as well with the panelists, and
Yeah,
it's quite
yeah.
interesting to have those prior show discussions to make sure that you really got the most of the information that we could put out there for you today. So thank you very much, guys. I think that will be all for
Thank
us.
you, everyone.
We
And
just
thank you,
have to
Nsibentum, as well.
Oh, thank you, Nate. I'm so frustrated.
That was a pleasure.
I'm just frustrated to not speak English with you, because
you need to learn because
I have to learn.
It's better than my French.
Learn.
But it's on you. You have to teach me. And Sokhna, you have to.
Yeah, no, you really have to, so that you can have the discussion in live with us here, and really give us all of those information that we cannot put out on social media platforms. We understand each other.
Definitely. Does this episode will be recorded, or where does people can?
I think it will be available on the YouTube page anyways. I think on Facebook it is also possible to rewatch it. So should you want to send a link to people tomorrow, etc., it will be the very same link that we used today to connect.
Okay.
So this is what you can find on our link tree, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We have the same link everywhere, and you will see watch it on YouTube or watch it on Facebook. So you will definitely be able to come and take more of the knowledge that we covered in this discussion. So yeah, apart from that, guys, we have to say bye-bye to each other. And
thank you.
And hope to see
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
I want to see all of you on everybody's social, okay? Because that's a squad. All right, let's make it clear. We're a squad now.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.
See you later.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Wash your hands. Wash your hands, everyone.
Stop being a mother. People want to go to bed. Stop being a mother. But we're
but you better stay healthy, though.
You're right.
You know what I mean? Drink water. Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys.
Take care, yo.
We'll see
Bye.
you next time. Bye.
See you.